Hi, and welcome to the final episode in this series where I've been explaining why anxiety and depression are not the problem we should be focusing on, yet a symptom to the problem. And I've explained how they are actually a signal from us that something inside of us needs our attention. And in the previous videos, I've gone into a lot of detail about why this is and given a lot of understanding so that you can hopefully make sense of this for yourself. Now, if you haven't watched them videos, I'll put the link below this one so you can go and catch up with them. And I just really would like people to understand this. It's really important for me that I help people to understand themselves, because sadly we're not kind of educated about this ourselves in school. So we don't have an understanding of why these things happen. And I kind of really want to help to change that. So in this video, I am going to talk a bit about how cognitive behavioural therapy can help with this, but also share some tips so you can go away and start this journey on your own if that's something you would like to do. So when someone comes into cognitive behavioural therapy, I do specialise in supporting people with anxiety and depression and the perfectionist behaviours. That's an area I have chosen to specialise in because I want to really help people to develop self-worth and change their relationship with themselves so that they can free themselves from these symptoms. So when somebody comes in, I will do a full assessment, get an understanding of what is going on, looking at their symptoms, but also getting to the root of the problem. And then once we've gotten to the root of the problem, we then kind of put a treatment plan in place to work through. And this treatment plan is different for everybody depending on the root cause. But to just kind of give you an idea is how I would work. I would really help the person to understand how this problem has developed in the first place. Not everybody, you don't need to necessarily understand how this problem has developed. Some people can't pinpoint a time in their life where this problem has developed, and that doesn't mean we can't fix it. Absolutely not. You can still fix the problem. But I find that helping somebody to understand where the problem developed can sometimes just help them to see that, oh yeah, that makes sense, and just give them that little bit of motivation that they can then overcome this. So I will usually start with doing that. And then I would help people to really start to understand themselves. I would give them a lot of information about how their mind works, why these problems happen, the cycle we then get stuck in, and why this cycle continues. Information about how fascinating our brain is. CBT is so educational. Like, it really helps people to understand themselves. People get like aha moments where they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then aha moments really make change happen for people. So it really is like really, really educational and interesting. And it's information we should have been given when we were younger. And we are massively let down by our education system with regards to the workings of our mind. I believe it's our human right to have this information, but sadly we are not given it. And many of my clients say to me at the end of therapy, I really wish someone had told me this when I was younger. It just makes so much sense. Had I had this information earlier, I probably wouldn't have struggled for so long. And that's exactly what I said on my own journey. So I really love sharing this information with people. And then, like I say, when we get to the root of the problem, I will really help people to understand their mind, give them loads of information, because helping them to understand why they're having this problem, again, gives them hope that there's something that can be done about it. And then we kind of dig deep into understanding our thoughts and where our thoughts are coming from and how we can then start to change them thoughts. Again, very educational, gives them some really good exercises to go away, and they start to really see that, even though we're not in control of the thoughts that pop into our head, we are in control with what we do with them once they are there. So that really helps people to start to shift. Then I will kind of really get to working on their beliefs and give them like really thought-provoking exercises to start to get to look at themselves in a very different way and start to challenge these beliefs to see that they are not true about them, which then kind of just really opens up their world, because they start to see things differently and start to see themselves differently. And they start to get this evidence that actually this wasn't true about me. And again, change really starts to happen. And then I will kind of work on behaviours. So we need to change someone's thoughts and their behaviours, like I've said in previous videos. So I will kind of identify with the person what behaviours they have in place as a result of this. So it could be the perfectionist behaviours, the rules that I spoke about in one of the previous videos. And then we look at setting experiments where I will kind of ask them to go away and do something different to what they're used to doing. Now, this can be quite a nerve-wracking part of CBT because it's getting somebody to really step outside their comfort zone, but it's actually one of the most kind of powerful parts as well, because what happens is when we have these rules and unhelpful behaviours in place that are reinforcing to us that we aren't good enough or that we are a failure, whatever the belief is we are working on, the behaviours we have in place actually reinforce that to us, not without us even realising. So when we do the behaviour experiments, what it allows people to see is to see a different outcome than the outcome that they have been assuming is going to happen for so many years, because their brain has been saying, if you do that, that will happen, so don't do it. And then they don't do it through fear. But by allowing themselves to step outside their comfort zone and do something different, it gives them a whole different outlook on what happens in comparison to what they were assuming would happen, which really opens up our mind to see that actually what we were assuming would happen is very unlikely to happen, and very unlikely does happen, and gives them this whole different perception, whole different perspective on things. So yeah, the behaviour side of things is a very, very important part of CBT. So like every single part of the treatment plan just really helps somebody to understand themselves and get a different perception of themselves and a different perception of things that they've been assuming will happen, and just really starts to kind of reprogram their mind to look at things differently. I always say to people, like when they come to me, CBT is a bit like, imagine your brain to be a forest, and in this forest there's one path, and this path is a path that's been walked down so many times that it's the only path your brain knows to go down. So it's like the path of always thinking the worst, negative thoughts, worry, just that constant negative outlook on things. And your brain has gone down that path so many times now that it doesn't really have any other path to go down. Now, you may have heard the saying, neurons that fire together wire together. And we, in our brain, if we kind of have the same thought over and over again, it will become wired in our brain. So that's what's created this pathway in our brain. So when somebody comes for therapy, what we want to do is kind of stop them going down that old pathway and give them a new pathway to go down. And if we are consistent with that and, we keep doing that, what happens is we interrupt the old pathway and we start to create this new pathway. And if we go down that one enough times, the old one becomes overgrown. It doesn't happen overnight, but it absolutely does happen with the right work and consistency and the right support. Because CBT, it can reprogram our brain to see things and for life to be very different, which is then when we ultimately start to feel so much better. So that's kind of how we would work in CBT. And I would obviously put in different therapies as well, because I very often cover self-compassion, because that's a very important part of this journey. So I'll do some self-compassion in there as well. So, there's many other different third waves that we can bring into CBT sessions just to give people even more tools to take away. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen and just give you some tips on how you could maybe just start to help yourself if you are somebody who can relate to these videos.